The film follows former American soldier Nick LEL. It's 1954, and he's locked up in a Japanese prison, working as a cleaner in the bathhouse. During a break, 5 huge, tattooed men walk out of the baths, throwing Nick a provocative glare. After they leave, Nick goes in to clean. What he sees shocks him. One man hangs with a rope tight around his neck, his hands bound. Nick instantly shouts for the guards. As he tries to help the man, another inmate rushes in. Together, they manage to cut him down, but instead of praise, Nick gets punished. Moments later, guards storm the bathhouse, drag Nick and the other inmate out, and brutally beat them. Then the warden shows up. He picks up a letter left by the man who tried to take his own life. In it, there's a message. A gang member is about to be released. The guards talk among themselves, but Nick doesn't understand a word of Japanese. All he can see is the warden's anger boiling over. The warden finally gives the order. Nick is thrown into solitary. The moment he steps inside, he realizes he's not alone. Sitting there is the same man he saved earlier. The man introduces himself as Koshi, a member of the Shiratsu Kyoshi Yakuza family. He tries to convince Nick to join his escape plan. Koshi explains. He will fake a suicide attempt, forcing the guards to rush him to a hospital. There, members of his family are already waiting to break him out. As a reward, Koshi promises that if Nick comes along, the Shiratsu brothers will protect him and back him up for life. Once the plan is in motion, Nick finds a stone and spends days sharpening it, preparing for the big moment. A few days later, Koshi carries out the crucial step. He stabs himself with the sharpened stone. Right before doing it, he warns Nick, "You need to save me. Call the guards now." The plan works perfectly. As Koshi lies bleeding, the guards panic and sound the alarm. But the twist: Nick is released ahead of schedule. Walking out the prison gates, he looks like a completely different man, reborn. Outside, someone waits for him and takes him straight to the Shiratsu clan headquarters in Osaka. There, Nick is warmly welcomed by the family's higher-ups. They thank him for his help. Soon after, one of the bosses makes him an offer. Take on a deal involving the Americans. Nick thinks it over and agrees. That night, instead of resting, he heads to a gambling bar. Inside, he meets a stunning Japanese woman who instantly captures his attention. Smitten, Nick tips her generously, unable to hide his fascination. The next day, Koshi takes Nick to a factory to meet an American businessman, Anthony Panetti. Nick's job is to negotiate a deal with Panetti over his metal factory business. Previously, Panetti had already turned down an offer from the Shiratsu Kyoshi. Now things get even more complicated. Panetti reveals he has also received a proposal from another gang, the Sesu clan. And this time, he has an American negotiator on his side. Panetti greets Nick with cold indifference, openly criticizing Japanese culture and the Yakuza. He makes it clear he will never sell the factory for less than the price offered by the Sesu clan. Under pressure from the Shiratsu members, Panetti ends the meeting with sarcasm, hinting that Nick might as well walk away from the negotiation. Nick realizes words alone won't move the deal forward. He grabs the typewriter on the desk and smashes it against Panetti's head, leaving him stunned. Shocked by the sudden burst of violence, Panetti falls silent and finally agrees to the Shiratsu clan's proposal. With his first mission complete, Shiratsu officials take Nick to a bar to celebrate. There, he reunites with Koshi, and the two share the joy of victory. But suddenly, members of the Sesu clan show up, pressing for answers about Panetti. One of them keeps provoking Nick. In the end, Nick loses his temper, grabs a bottle, and smashes it over the man's head. Seeing this, the Shiratsu members draw their guns on the Sesu men. Faced with the standoff, the Sesu clan backs down and leaves the bar. The air is still thick with tension, but the balance of power clearly tilts toward the Shiratsu. Nick's bold move at the bar leaves a strong impression, earning him the family's trust. To show respect, Koshi gifts him a luxury apartment and invites him to officially join. Soon after, Koshi assigns Nick a new task: head to a Shiratsu-owned bar and deal with its owner. The man has been trying to seize control from the family. When the talks go nowhere, Nick doesn't hesitate. He slits the bar owner's throat to punish his betrayal. Koshi then delivers the finishing blow, making it clear that no one dares challenge the Shiratsu's authority. With the job done, Nick once again proves his worth and his courage. Later, Koshi takes Nick to one of the family's nightclubs. There, Nick spots the same beautiful woman he met at the bar, now dancing with a group of men, completely holding his attention. Koshi steps straight onto the dance floor, pulls her away from the crowd, his face stern, his tone sharp. He warns her that members of the Sesu clan could sneak in armed, putting both the club's safety and her life at risk. Then he turns to Nick and orders him to escort his sister, Miyu, home safely. Nick follows the order. When they arrive at Miyu's home, she teases him playfully, hinting at an invitation inside. Unable to resist her charm, Nick steps through the door. As the two grow closer, Nick notices a striking detail, an elaborate Yakuza tattoo stretching across her back. The next day, everything changes. Koshi summons Nick and assigns him a new mission: buy weapons from an American soldier for an important plan. Koshi stresses that the soldier must never know the deal is tied to the Shiratsu clan. Because of how sensitive the job is, Nick has to go alone, with no backup. Nick heads to the docks as planned, ready to meet the soldier and close the deal. But instead of the soldier, he finds a lifeless body. Before he can process what's happening, members of the Shiratsu clan gang appear. They want to sabotage the trade and steal Nick's cash. Luckily, Nick was one step ahead. He already stashed the money in his car, out of their reach. Furious, the Shiratsu clan thugs decide to kill him. They force him to kneel, preparing for execution. Nick plays along for a moment, then suddenly fights back, using his combat skills to take down two of them. When word of the dockside chaos reaches the Shiratsu boss, he calls an urgent meeting with all family members, including Nick and Koshi. The boss suspects a traitor inside the family leaked the plan, causing the ambush. Koshi reassures him that the $2 million Nick carried is still safe, well hidden. Even so, the boss cannot forgive Nick for killing two of the Shiratsu men. To prevent an all-out gang war, the Shiratsu boss orders Nick to cut off two of his fingers as an apology. Hearing this, Koshi can't hide his guilt. He blames himself for dragging Nick into trouble, so he begs the boss for forgiveness and promises to repay the family's debt. After a moment of thought, the boss agrees and lets Koshi settle it. Nick and Koshi are then ordered to deliver the severed fingers to the Shiratsu clan, a gesture of apology for the two men Nick killed, meant to calm their rage. Later inside the car, the boss shares a secret with Nick. He isn't just Koshi's protector, he's also his stepfather. He also suspects there's a Shiratsu spy inside the family and vows to expose the traitor. After that, the boss brings Nick to an official ceremony. From this moment, Nick is welcomed into the Shiratsu clan. That night, the celebration is in full swing, but Nick slips away from the crowd and finds Koshi. He confesses his relationship with Miyu. Koshi has always disapproved, not wanting her dragged into this life. Nick swears that no matter what happens, he'll protect her. Finally, Koshi accepts Nick's promise, and even congratulates him. This marks Nick's true entry into the Shiratsu clan, with Koshi's full recognition. As a full-fledged Yakuza member, Nick decides to get a tattoo on his back matching Miyu's. During the session, Miyu stays close, explaining the meaning of the unique tattoo and its connection to Yakuza culture. Over the next few days, Nick fully immerses himself in gang life. One day, while Nick and Miyu are on a train, he suddenly spots a Shiratsu member, the same man who tried to kill him at the docks. Meanwhile, the Shiratsu clan brings a business proposal to the Shiratsu headquarters, but instead of sending a leader, they send a young, low-ranking member. The Shiratsu boss feels insulted. A family operative, Orochi, cleverly persuades him to consider the proposal, easing some tension, but the boss still refuses. Later that night, while drinking, Orochi is visibly frustrated that the boss rejects his advice. Koshi warns him, but Orochi's anger has already taken over. The tension is even more obvious when he meets the boss, who refuses to speak with him. Disheartened, Orochi leaves the bar and goes to find Miyu for comfort. It turns out he and Miyu had a past romance, and now he tries to rekindle it. But Miyu firmly rejects him, which sparks Orochi's intense rage. He slaps her and tries to harass her. The scene shifts to a meeting between the Shiratsu and the Shiratsu clan at a sumo match. This time, it's the Shiratsu boss who approaches the Shiratsu leader with a different proposal. He wants the Shiratsu boss to step down and hand over power so the two families can merge. The Shiratsu leader flatly refuses and warns the Shiratsu boss to tread carefully or face unpredictable consequences. On the way back to Kobe, Nick runs into his old friend, American soldier Paulie Bowers, who is currently on leave. During their conversation, Bowers threatens to expose Nick's faked death to escape prosecution, leaving Nick uneasy. Nick invites Bowers to his home to calm the situation. But after pouring him a drink, Nick plunges a knife into Bowers' neck, ending his life. Afterward, Nick goes to Miyu's home and is shocked to see bruises on her face. He asks who hurt her, but Miyu doesn't answer. Instead, she reveals she's carrying Nick's child. She tells him to leave. Heartbroken, Nick departs and finds Koshi to share the news of Miyu's pregnancy, saying that if he wants, he can leave the Shiratsu clan. Koshi invites Nick inside and gives him 2 heirlooms from his father, a pair of large swords. One is meant to take a life, the other is for Koshi to end his own life if he chooses. Koshi explains that he has cared for Miyu since she was a child, and now entrusts that responsibility to Nick. Nick takes one of the swords and asks Koshi to help him bury Bauer's body. Meanwhile, at the Sisu clan headquarters, Orochi meets with the boss. He reveals that he has betrayed the Shiratsu clan and is plotting to destroy them. The next day, the Shiratsu boss takes Koshi and Nick to a tailor shop. When the boss doesn't come out of the fitting room, Nick enters and finds a clerk strangling him. Nick jumps in to help, and Koshi arrives, shooting the clerk dead. They rush back to their car but fall into a Sisu ambush. In the chaos, a Sisu gunman shoots Koshi. Nick and the boss escape back to their base and gather the remaining Shiratsu members. The boss reveals there's a traitor in the Shiratsu clan. To exact revenge, they declare war on the Sisu clan. When Nick tells Miyu that Koshi is dead, she breaks down in hysteria. Meanwhile, after Nick intimidates a Sisu high-ranking member, everything points to the Shiratsu clan gaining the upper hand. However, the Sisu leaders sent a young boy to the Shiramatsu headquarters with a message requesting an end to the war. The boy invited the Shiramatsu clan to a battle in a neutral zone with no weapons allowed. The Shiramatsu leader agreed and sent Nick along with other members to the port to begin the battle. However, upon their arrival, Chairman Sisu and Duchi appeared openly admitting their betrayal of the Shiramatsu. The Shiramatsu leader, who had regarded Orochi as his own son, forgave him and pleaded for him to return to Shiramatsu before it was too late. But as they embraced Orochi, suddenly stabbed the Shiramatsu leader to death. Orochi then declares that the Shiramatsu clan is finished and says he will spare Nick if he leaves. Nick refuses and prepares to fight back. At that moment, a sniper hits Nick in the leg, and police arrive, attacking and setting fire to the Shiramatsu headquarters. That night, Nick sneaks into Miyu's home, where she was being guarded by the Kizu clan. Determined to rescue her, he heads straight to the Sisu headquarters, wielding the sword Koshi gave him, demanding permission to execute Orochi. Facing Nick, Orochi drops his sword and says he won't fight. Nick is an outsider and can never truly become a Yakuza. In an instant, Nick beheads Orochi. Suddenly, the Sisu boss stops. Another member reaches for a gun, but he orders Nick to go home, acknowledging that by killing Orochi, Nick has avenged the Shiratsu clan. Nick obeys and leaves the Sisu headquarters. The film ends with Nick back at his safe apartment. Miyu clings to him tightly, while another Shiratsu member stands guard, saluting Nick, hinting that he may become the next leader of the Shiratsu clan.